Okay, so let's get started. We are going to be looking at the Kraljic matrix, and I just want to share with you my whiteboard screen so that you can see exactly what I am doing. Now, the Kraljic matrix is one of the models that we use in procurement for segmenting spend. Now, it is important not just for spend segmentation, but it is also important for you to place the items that you procure in the right quadrant of the Kraljic matrix so that you can understand the kind of relationships that must be built between your organization and the supplier, all right? The buying organization and the supplier. The Kraljic matrix is very useful because it will tell you whether you need to get your chief procurement officer involved in the relationship, or whether you need to push it as high as the chief executive of the company, or you can leave it at buyer level and manage that particular type of relationship. On the other hand, the other reason why it is important to understand the Kraljic matrix, a model of segmentation of spend or commodities that we procure, we can understand what kind of negotiation approach we will use when we are negotiating with a particular supplier, depending on which quadrant they sit in the Kraljic matrix. Okay, so let me get started by drawing. Let me just move this little thing up here. Okay, so let's start with the two axes that the Kraljic matrix consists of. I'm going to start with the vertical axis, and I'll draw it like this. Now, this vertical axis represents the importance of the item in the organization. I'm going to put a text here. I'll say importance of the item in the organization. And that the importance of the item in the organization is measured or is determined on the amount of revenue that product brings you, or in terms of how critical to your operation. I'll just say stroke operations. Okay, now critical. If an item is, let's just do that, bring this out here, and we move it to the left. Okay, I hope you can see it. Now, if an item is highly important, which means that it generates a lot of revenue for your organization, especially when you are in the retail sector, you procure it and it's a fast mover, it generates a lot of revenue for you, then it will be right on the top, which means that it will be in the high zone here, and I'll explain that later. Then if it does not generate high revenue for you, but you use it once in a while, or it is not operational critical, you can do without it, or it's not so important in ensuring that your operations continue running, then you regard it as importance low. So that's importance of item. Let me just include, oops, sorry, how do I edit that? It's fine, we can leave it like that. The next axis on the Kraljic matrix is the horizontal axis, and I'm going to draw it from the top here of my arrow of the vertical axis towards my right hand side. Okay, now this particular axis represents the complexity of the supply market. Okay, and the complexity of the supply market is determined many other factors, but we're going to focus on two. The first one is the level of risk associated with the supply market for that particular product. So you measure it in terms of risk, okay? And the other one that which determines complexity of supply market is availability of alternatives, okay? Now, this is a loaded statement. Let me just pull it up there and drag it to the left so that it can be a bit smaller. Availability of alternative sources of supply of this particular product. Now, if the market is highly complex, we will indicate it with an H, which is high. If the market is not so complex, we will say it is low. All right, so we put the low there. Now, let me finish drawing the rest of the matrix or the quadrants that are associated with this. I beg your pardon because this whiteboard 2 in Zoom is not so nice, so it may not come out as straight as I want it to come out. So I hope you just bear with me. So we take it up to the top there. Okay, so we've got our box complete. Then we can put in the specific quadrants, and it's got basically 4 different quadrants. Okay, now the quadrant on the top right here, it indicates high. I'm going to denote. Yeah, it's fine. Now just say high complexity and high importance. All right, so when we segment a commodity that we procure and we put it in the high complexity, high importance item, that item becomes a strategic item, all right? Strategic item. What that means here is that this product has got high complexity of supply market. It means that the risk of supply is extremely high, or the availability of alternatives is very, very low. So you don't have so many alternatives in the market, and in fact, what it means is that the barriers to entry into this market is extremely high. So this item, you classify it under high complexity of the supply market. You probably have a monopoly supplier who plays in this particular field, and they do not allow alternative. I mean, there are no other alternatives where you can go to. So this particular item becomes very, very strategic, high complexity and high importance. High importance means that it's a high revenue generator for you. When you procure it from your supplier and you have to resell it, if you're in the retail sector, it generates very high income for you guys. Or if you're using it in the operations and incorporating it into sub components, it's a very critical item that you cannot do without. It determines the level of safety of your product, the level of completion. For example, if you don't have it, you cannot sell the product. Then it becomes a very strategic item. So when you have this combination, high complexity and high importance, then the item becomes very strategic. All right. And while we are at this, I want to advise you that when you are dealing with in negotiations and you are entering negotiations with a supplier who supplies you high complex items and high importance items, then you have to push as a buyer to go for a win-win approach. Okay. Most instances, you may not have the leverage to push for a win-win. You might be going for a lose-win where the supplying organization may win and you lose as the buying organization. But it depends. That's why we bring in things like relationship management. You bring in your big guns to come and manage and stroke the egos of the supplying company so that they can consider a win-win approach for you. All right, so I'll do another video another time just to talk about the implications of the negotiation approach on these particular items, the strategic items. For now, I just want you to understand the Kraljic matrix. Let's move from high complexity and high importance right to low complexity and low importance. So let's start by saying products in the bottom left quadrant are low complexity, which means that they can easily be procured. The risk of procuring these items is very low, and they are low importance, which means that you do not need them so much. How do you write importance? Importance, yeah, there we go, importance. Okay, you don't need them for you to be able to generate income. You can do without them, basically. In your operations, they are not very essential, okay? These items are, we call them routine. They are routine items, okay? Or you can call them non-strategic. Any one of whichever you want to call them. But these are non-strategic. There is high competition. You've got availability of alternative suppliers everywhere. They're not complex. So when you have to negotiate with these, in fact, you just go out on a competitive bid, give it to the cheapest supplier. These are non-critical items. You don't want to enter into costly negotiations with the suppliers. Then we go to the top. We'll come back to the bottom right. Let's go to the top left. And here we find the low complexity and high importance. Okay. Now these low complexity and high importance, it means that these products are available. You've got alternative suppliers. The risk of securing supply is extremely low. However, they are high revenue generators. They are critical to your operation. This is where everybody wants to find themselves in. And these are called leverage. Why are they called leverage? It's because you leverage them to create revenue, because these are the things that you can leverage yourselves and generate as much revenue as you want, because they are readily available. You've got ready customers, they're generating you income and so on. In terms of the negotiation approach, you will always, obviously, you will try and do a win-win. It's usually recommended, but you can get away with a win-lose, okay, like competitive type of negotiations, because you know that you can go to the next guy on the side of the road and they will be able to provide you the same products that the other supplier is trying to sell to you, okay? So these are called leverage items. Then we go to the bottom right, where we have a high complexity and low importance. Now, these items that are high complexity are called bottlenecks. Bottlenecks items are items that are not easily found. They can prevent you from making progress. That's why they're called bottlenecks. If it is a spare that you don't usually use, but it is very difficult to find, and the risk of obtaining it is quite high. Probably you've got one, the supplier was overseas and that's where they stay, but you only probably need it once in a while. If that thing breaks, it becomes a challenge for you to continue operating. But it's not a high revenue generator, and it's not very critical to your operation. So what normally we do with bottlenecks items is that you keep stock of these bottleneck items, because if you don't have them, they are going to cause you problems. Okay, that's why they are called, but the time that you need them, they're critical, but they are not very essential for your operations. All right, so it's important for you to, they're not directly involved in generating your income. They are more in the background, like spares, like I said earlier, and you can like I said, leave somewhat. Without them, you can have an alternative machine that you can use. There are various things that you can put in place in order for you to go around the issue of not having stock of these bottleneck items. So basically, this is what the Kraljic matrix looks like, ladies and gentlemen. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if there's any problem that you're having in understanding your subjects towards as you prepare for your exams, as you embark on the MSIPS journey, please do let us know. We'll be able to help you wherever we can. All the best to you, and bye-bye.